Right, so my name's Glenn Sultana. This is London Comic Con here. It's at MCM, it's the XL. And this is Fred Van Lente.
Hello.
Sir. How are
Hello.
you?
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure also to read this. Which
Glad to hear it.
I can imagine you're getting quite the rave reviews.
I don't read reviews.
No,
I don't. My wife is a playwright and used to work with Lee Schreiber, and he had a great quote, which is that the bad ones are bad and the good ones aren't good enough. So there's no upside really to reading your reviews.
fair enough.
I try to get my validation from
Sales.
sales, yes,
When the check comes through.
and interviews with fine individuals such as yourself.
Thank you very much indeed. The con artist it couldn't be more in my wheelhouse, and indeed the readers of An Englishman in San Diego, because it is set at the convention, the grand show in July.
It's in your Twitter handle.
Yes, it's kind of like I've tied myself in there, haven't I? I've locked myself into that box. How do you describe the book? Because it can be described in a number of ways.
Sure, that's very true.
And we'll get into that in a second, but how do you describe it?
So The Con Artist is a geek noir. It's set during, as you said, during San Diego Comic Con. A very famous comic book artist is accused of murdering his editor. And he has basically the rest of the con to find the real killer before he himself gets hauled away to jail. Because the main character is a comic book artist, my frequent collaborator and good friend Tom Fowler does illustrations in the book that come directly from the character's sketchbook while he's at the con. And so not only are these great illustrations, each one actually has an individual clue to the murder in it. So you can try to, piece the clues together and solve it on your own.
I quite like the conceit that the whole thing happens in those days of the convention. It's literally the second he steps off the plane at San Diego the International Airport, right up to the moment they're starting to pull down the banners on Monday morning.
Yes, that's true.
And I do like that conceit, which is just, obviously, was that something that you just went, okay, that's the kernel of the idea?
Oh yeah, I really like seeing characters under pressure, and one of the main pressures you can put on yourself and on people is time. So I love constraints of time, and doing that con, even though it's a very long con by con standards, as you well know, from Wednesday to Sunday. It was a neat way to sort of structure a book. I love stories that have their own built-in structure.
Yeah. I also quite like the fact that for someone who has gone to San Diego Comic Con, the areas that you describe, it's not even just kind of like the general area. You can almost pin down the square footage of where you're describing. So you know the convention well. Yeah. Which kind of begs the question then, who is the book for? Because it very much feeds for us attendees. Yeah. But it also reads, I can imagine, as a straightforward murder noir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you answered your own question. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely for both those people. Qwirk Books are the folks who published it. They published my first novel, 10 Dead Comedians, which is basically a riff on Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, except they're stand-up comics, as the suspects and victims. And so they really enjoyed this concept when I pitched it to them. It's very much in their wheelhouse. They're kind of going for that kind of geek, sophisticated kind of geek reader. And so, I also love noir. I love Raymond Chandler, and so this is kind of
that's the word. Those were the name I went to.
Yeah. So it's very much sort of a Raymond Chandler type story, just done in the geek milieu. Okay. And I guess I should say for those who don't know, I've worked in the comic industry full time since 2006. So it's an environment I'm sort of steeped in, and so I was able to bring a lot of. Most everything that happens in the book, with a couple exceptions of sort of the crime-based stuff, is all stuff that's happened to my friends or stories I've heard secondhand. So there's a lot of like dirt being dished in the book.
Well, that's the other thing as well, because while it can be read by someone who's just reading it as a noir, and it can also be read by us convention attendees, it also feels that it's a love letter to the industry itself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I can imagine that there's a number of copies being bandied around your friends in the industry, artists, writers, and they're kind of going, this is...
I've had people texting me saying, oh, you put this guy in there. Oh, I know that story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very much so.
Excellent. The one thing I wanted to touch on is, pretty much everything in there is something that you can spot and see in San Diego, but you changed the name of the Eisners. Was that something that you had to do? Or was it something that you felt you wanted to be respectful and didn't want to tread on their toes?
Well, I mean, I changed a lot of things. So in San Diego, as you probably know, Thursday night. So the plot of the book follows sort of how the San Diego, not just the convention itself, but how the social scene goes, particularly for prose. So Thursday night's always the CBLDF, Comic Legal Defense Fund.
Still never been to one.
Party. Oh yeah.
Still never been. It's one of those bucket lists.
They're going to feature this. They're going to Qwirk's going to try to do something with this at that party. So we'll try to get you in. But I changed that to a different charity, more of a hero initiative type. I don't know how like down the rabbit hole you want to go.
No, we can go all the way. We can go all the way.
So because of the plot of the book, I won't spoil that. It was more interesting to have the charity not be the CBLDF, but have basically a hero initiative type charity, a charity that helps out down on the comic book creators. And then Friday night is always the Eisners, but because I changed the name of the charity, I also want to change the name of the Eisners. Also, I just think it's more fun. There's also a very important plot element that is involved with the Eisners that I won't give away. With the trophy and what that is like, and I wanted a specific look for the trophy that the Eisner trophy just doesn't have. So, and I mean, fun fact: the Eisners used to be called the Kirby's, which is what they're called in the novel. There was a legal dispute, bizarrely enough, not related actually to either of the actual artists. That sort of caused them to be renamed the Eisners. So I thought it amused me to rename
retcon it back
exactly into the and similarly, you know, so there's lots of retro names being used in the book.
Cool. I also quite like the fact. I mean, the reason why I was asking about who it was for, and also the fact that it was pitched a little bit to the those in the industry. I do like the fact that, while it does describe rather well the exhibition floor, and it does touch on things that you see there and the people you see there, the action all happens at night. It's all about the parties. That's true. It's all about the evening stuff.
It's the con, what they call bar con. Right?
Oh yes.
It's creators getting together at the various bars, which are all actually depicted as they actually are. Particularly the Marriott pool, which is sort of the big pro hangout, has become the big pro hangout. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess because I'm just in that milieu anyway. Of course I do it that way. And then Saturday night is Saturday night is always for the big industry parties, and so we have a big industry party in this on the Midway, which is one of my favorite San Diego landmarks. This giant Cold War era decommissioned aircraft carrier that's been turned into a museum. It's not that far from the convention center.
The tone of the book changes almost from the cover to the back. Because you read the back and you look at the cover, it's very much a kind of the comic book industry can be murder, and I do love the unconventional whodunit. Very nice play of words. But as you
I didn't write the book. That's all the crack Qwirk marketing staff.
So I'm crediting you.
They're doing a great job.
So it's all very and I was reading like the first couple of pages and we were both cackling away as we were recognizing references. But as you get deeper into the book, it gets very deep and it gets very dark, and the noir element really kind of falls into it. Did you find that when you were writing it, or was that an intentional part of when you were putting the plot together? That shift in
someone wrote, I think it was about 10 Named Comedians. I got a fan tweet or something that was sort of like, I just wanted to like frame. Of course, I instantly lost it because I was like, oh, I should really keep this close to hand. Nope, it's gone. She said, like, I read it and then I stopped laughing when I started crying, and I thought, like, wow. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm going for. Like, I want those gamut of emotions, you know. But yeah, that's sort of my whole shtick. Like, I like joke. You know, the bottom line is all humor kind of comes from truth, right? I mean, all jokes, all things that make you laugh are all truths that you came to unexpectedly. You know, and that's why you have that sort of visceral, physical reaction of laughing. You know, and so. You know, not to be too pretentious, but I think all writing is based in truth. So the jokes are truth, but then also horrible things happen to you. Also, you know, your life is hopefully a series of humorous things and dramatic things, and with as few tragedies as possible. But they're still going to happen, right? And so that's what I like to bring to my writing is that whole breadth of human experience.
One thing as well, I mean, the moment I stopped, well, no, I did. I laughed all the way through. I will admit, there are.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. But the moment when it became real, for me, was
Shit got real.
Shit got real at the Kirby's.
Yes.
And the speech.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we're not going to give away too much in terms of plot, but this isn't necessarily a plot device as such. It's almost kind of like a manifesto that is it's put out there. Was that something you found yourself at the Real Eisner's kind of like in your head? I wish I could just grab the mic and say this for myself, for my fellow artists out there. I wish I could.
Yeah, I mean, I
stick it to them.
With all due respect to the folks who put on the Eisners and the Harveys and all the terrific awards. I mean, I those things are horror. Those things are awful. Sitting through any kind of an award ceremony, I used to like to say, people ask you, you're going to watch the Oscars. Like, I don't care about any award ceremony I'm not nominated for. Recently, I had to sit through the Harveys because I was nominated, and I still hated it. So, it could have only been ameliorated perhaps by my winning, which I did not. So it was just not a good experience all around. But
because this could get nominated for comics-related publication.
Sure.
And don't be too surprised if I just throw you under the bus and put you on the nomination list.
That's fine. Hey, go for it. It's a good marketing thing. It moves books. So please nominate me. Please vote for me. Just don't ask me to go to the ceremony, or at least expect to sit through the whole thing. But to answer your question, this isn't the first sort of comics-related fiction that I've done. Sure. My wife, the playwright Crystal Skillman, and I did a play called King Kirby that was about the life of Jack Kirby a couple years ago. And so Kirby famously was kind of swindled out of a lot of credit, and particularly out of the money owed him for co-creating the Marvel Universe. And whose fault is that is sort of what the play is about. And it's about collaboration. It's about how we honor people who create pop culture and not just treat pop culture like it's something disposable that gets cranked out by a factory by kind of faceless drones, And so a lot of that speech that the hero, the con artist, gives, it comes out of me thinking about the play after it had been done, after people had been reacting to it. So it was less a reaction to a lot of the con artist, we should say, which is not a spoiler, is about the hero, his comic artist's relationship to this older artist, his mentor, who's sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of major
There are
figures.
some faces that you can recognize.
Yeah. That will be fairly obvious to people who read it. One of whom is thanked in the acknowledgments of the book, actually. And so this person has died, perhaps under shady circumstances, perhaps not. And so he basically gives a eulogy to him in the Eisners. There are Eisners in the book. And so so a lot of that is sort of my feelings about the industry and about how the industry treats its senior people and its modern day people. Famously, the comic book industry does not have, a union. So and so there are a lot of health problems. In the United States, a place where we don't have, universal health care, that can be very problematic. And you can really find yourself needing to throw yourself on a GoFundMe page or crowdfunding.
There's enough of them around, isn't there?
Your hip replacement or whatever it is that you need when you get older. Yeah. So that was something that meant a lot to me.
Okay.
And not. I'm glad you stopped. I'm glad you didn't laugh at that.
No. The book itself has some amazing characters in it, to the point where they're so well fleshed out, and that you could actually see them moving further on. But it's such a self-contained idea. Is it something that you feel you could spin the characters off to, I don't know, another convention? Or, you know what I mean? Or I'm trying to think what other element of comics industry it could kind of, then you have another nerve.
It's an interesting question. It hadn't really occurred to me. I talked to Qwirk about doing another book with one of the characters. But I don't know if that's going to come about. We may do the book, but not with one of the characters from this book in it. I guess serial fiction is kind of how you make money, so I may have to start getting into that fairly quickly, But I personally, as a reader and as a writer, like things that end. like things that are self-contained. So yeah, this is very much a self-contained book. I would agree with you.
Very much. It also is very, it's very filmable.
Sure, why not?
The thing is, we are now talking sometime not that far away from San Diego Comic Con 2018.
Right.
Will we possibly be seeing film crews going around taking as much footage as humanly possible?
Yeah.
Will we be seeing actors being pushed over at hotel bars?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it'll all be there on the scene. That would be great if that happened. Knowing I've done enough in the movie space to know probably not by 2018. by July, we're filming this the end of May. So not in 3 months. No.
Okay.
No.
But maybe
I'm sorry I can't break that news.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then
here
again, I
on
mean,
this
we had Paul made, and they kind of faked it rather well. So
they didn't shoot at the.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I think they shot literally a couple of things, but it was mostly mocked up. It was kind of done.
I mean, other than the fact that you have that parking lot in the back of I think it's the Marriott, that's filled with all the AV trucks, which come to think of it is in the novel. I imagine it would be fairly expensive to shoot on location.
That's where the Netflix money comes in.
Well, I guess that's true, right? Or Jeff Bezos shouldn't fund spaceships. He should give us money to shoot the con artists.
I'd be up for it. I think it'd be a great thing. When's the book due?
July something. I want to say July.
That would be
10th,
perfect
July
timing.
10th.
Perfect timing for a certain event.
That's right. I'm sure it's a total coincidence.
Excellent stuff. Fred, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed. The Con Artist is due shortly. Do pick up a copy. I heartily recommend it. That's the book.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Yeah, no problem.